Hey there everybody, Coach Brandon here again with Coach Ant, and today we're going to be covering the very important topic of engaging a seated opponent. So far we've been doing a lot of different guard passes. We've looked at the 7 strongest guard passes in the sport, but we've been looking at them from a situation where my opponent's on their back and their feet are up like this. But a lot of times, your more advanced and experienced opponents are going to be playing from seated positions, whether it's a square seated position where they're like this and both their arms are available, or a staggered seated position where they prop onto one hip and this gives them greater mobility. They can start tracking down, they still have a free arm. So we have either a square butterfly or a staggered butterfly. And we're going to be looking how to deal with a seated opponent today when they're seated playing butterfly guard. We're going to look at a couple different methods, both from standing and from kneeling. And regardless of the method we use, we have to keep the same kinds of things in mind, okay? We need to be circumspect with how we approach and engage our opponent. If they're playing a seated position, they're probably pretty skilled, they know what's going on, and we gotta be wary of their attacks. So I'm gonna show you how to safely approach and engage. Then I'm gonna show you guys how to establish inside position so you can start getting your inside passes going. If we can't get inside position, I'm going to show you guys how we can still use some of our outside position passes, the leg drag and the toreando versus a seated guard. Then from there, we're going to talk about how to break our opponent's connections from seated guard, which can be quite a bit of grip fighting, okay? And these are different if we're standing versus if we're kneeling, but we have to break their connections. And then the last but not least, we're going to briefly touch on the idea of foregoing the guard pass and going right into submissions. Because they're in a seated position, their head and their arms are available to us because they're seated and leaning forward and close to us, and we can attack the neck and the arms with submissions. Again, whether we're standing or whether we're seated. So the way this video is going to start off is I'm going to show how we approach a seated guard from the standing position, and from the standing position, I'm going to show you how we approach and engage, how we get inside and pass from the inside, how we pass from the outside, how we break connections, and how we attack submissions. And then we're going to restart and we're going to go back and look at this from the kneeling position. And then from the kneeling position, we're going to look at how to approach and engage a partner, how to get inside and pass from the inside, how to pass from the outside, how to break connections, and how to go into submissions. So the same stuff's going to be covered from the standing position and then from the kneeling position. All right? So let's get started with some general considerations. If Ant is playing a seated butterfly guard here, now, whether I'm standing or kneeling, there's some things to consider. Consideration number 1, if he's playing a seated position, he's probably an Ashigarami or X-guard specialist. He's probably very good at getting an Ashigarami and X-guard. That's the main purpose of playing from a seated position. So I need to be very wary about that. Okay, I don't just want to walk into his attacks. Another thing to be mindful of is that he can now reach me with his hands. If he's on his back, he can't really grip fight me the same way. But when he's on his butt, he can now reach, he can easily get grips, he can pull me out of balance, he can grip fight, etc. Okay? So you've got to be worried about that. So that's how the game changes a little bit versus a seated guard. Okay, when he's seated, we have to be worried about his leg entries, Ashigarami X guard, and we have to be worried about his ability to grip fight. And eventually, if we want to pass him, we're going to have to take him and we're going to have to put him on his back. And now we can go into all of our guard passes that we've been looking at. So let's see, how do we engage a seated opponent? I'm going to start off from the standing position. Now from the standing position, section number 1, approaching and engaging an opponent. I do not just want to step up and start engaging him here. If I go here and start trying to pass, he's going to do a shin-to-shin entry, and he's going to get into Ashigarami, and I'm going to have to deal with this. So when I approach, can you back up a little bit so I can center it perfect. When I approach Ant, I'm going to play a distance game. I don't walk right up to his toe line. If I walk up to his toe line, this is where he can start reaching and making those connections. So I keep away. I also want good head position. If my head is up, I can't grab and grip fight with him. And now he can come forward, get into those shin-to-shin connections, and go into attacks. So I play distance, and I have good head position where my head height matches his head height. I come in with a staggered stance, my head matches his head, and now we come in and we start grip fighting. He wants to grab my legs, right? He wants to go into this 2-on-1, shin to shin 2-on-1, things like this. So I'm not going to let him get control. When I start walking in, I'm going to start controlling his hands and grip fighting. Okay, so this is how we initially engage somebody from a seated position. We want to keep our legs back. We want good head position so we can reach, and if we need to, we can start engaging in grip fighting. Now, let's talk about getting to the inside position using a number of different tactics, okay? First one, let's look at some stepping. One is I can just step to the inside position if he's naive. If he doesn't really know what he's doing, I just come in and I can step right to the inside position, either to a straight hamstring position so that my knee is near this hip, or to a cross hamstring position so that my knee can come in close to and pin this hip. But either way, I want to step in a way where I can start wedging the hips. Okay? Now, if I go to step in and use his hands to block, and then go to a shin to shin 2-on-1, that's another issue. So I need to stop him from being able to block. So I approach, distance, we grip fight. Now when he tries to stop me from stepping in, his hands are controlled, and he can't stop me from stepping in. Okay, so we've grip fighting. Another thing I can do is feint stepping. Again, if I just step in, any old way, and I step into his connections. So I use feinting. Okay, I can come in, and I can start moving my leg around and go here, and it's harder for him to track. So really try to like set a connection this time. And I can get into the inside position. So we can use feinting, where I fake with a leg. Okay, so those are a few good ones. Where I can just step in. If he's good, I might need to control grips and step in. Or I can use some feinting tactics to step in. So that's using movement, deception, grip fighting to get in. Grip fighting, movement, deception. Now we're going to look at other ways to get in that involve him keeping his feet heavy. When I approach, he wants his feet to be light so he can pummel, just like that. If I can get weight on his feet, then he can't follow me. So one thing I can do is a crescent step. So when I approach, I step, and now I'm going to take a big step around his feet, around his knee, up to his hip line. If he doesn't do anything, I'll walk around and take his back. So he's going to have to do a couple things. One, he can either fall to his back, and now we have an opponent on their back, and we can start going into all of our guard passes. Or he's going to circle with me. Like walk with your feet. Yes, but as we do this, he has to be able to push off of his feet, so his feet need to be weighted. So when I come in, and he starts following me, it's usually pretty easy to step in as he's trying to follow. So we have crescent step. That's one way to keep weight over his ankles. Another way is with a collar tie. I come in playing distance, good head position, grip fighting. I take a V grip or a thumb post on the shoulder, and I start to push his shoulders back. If he doesn't do anything, I put him on his back, and now we pass. But he's playing seated position for a reason. If he's in a seated position, he probably wants to stay in a seated position. So I go to push him back, he leans back into me, and now I go collar tie. So now when he tries to stop me from stepping to the inside, he can't move his feet. Palm with your feet in. And now I can get in. And I'm going to use my knee to drive him down to his back. And then I come in and start passing. So again, I come in, push him back, he fights, collar tie. He goes to stop me from getting inside. And now I'm in side position. Okay, so we've seen, let's see, this head position, grip fighting, feint step, crescent step, collar tie, and hand post, leg assist. We'll save that one for later. Let's do the ankle lift. Another way I can come in is I can come in, monitoring distance, grip fighting, here. Now, as he leans into me, I can come in here and I can take an ankle lift, and I can lift his ankle. Now, as I walk in, one of two things will happen. He'll either stay where he is, and then he'll be forced onto his back, or as I walk forward, he can plant his right hand on the floor, and now he can kind of butt scoot back. But as he does, now his foot is weighted, and he can't stop me from stepping to the inside. So those are just some options, but we saw how we approach: good head position, grip fighting, playing distance, and then we have to establish inside position. We've seen we can do this with grip fighting and stepping, feint stepping, crescent stepping, ankle lifting, collar tie, pulling the weight over the feet. There's so many different ways to engage a seated opponent, but I prefer to step to the inside. I didn't even say why. Why do you think I prefer to step to the inside if I'm playing a seated opponent? Think you know it?
Prevent you from having an inside position.
That's exactly right. If I walk up and I let him have all the inside position, he's going to have Ashigarami, X-guard, and all those. But if I come up and I'm able to steal inside position from him, he no longer has the Ashigarami, the X-guard, and all those things. So I prefer to pass from the inside position. Once I'm able to get an inside position, whether it's with feint stepping, crescent stepping, the collar tie, whatever method I use, now we're just into our same passing game we've been looking at. So regardless of how I get in, I step to the inside position, I force him down. I can go knee cut. If he gets his knee shield in, I can go lower leg knee cut. I can go, look at it. I can go long step. I can go smash pass. I can go over under. I can do all of my passes that are based on inside position. Over under, knee cut, lower leg knee cut, long step, smash pass, okay? That's if I'm able to get inside. That's in a perfect world. Now, let's look at situations where maybe I can't get inside position and I have to pass from the outside. So I come up, no matter what I'm doing, I'm trying to get inside, but Ant's doing a really good job of protecting his inside position. One thing I can do is a Toreando. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up, stepping, posting on the shoulder and posting on the knee. I take a side step with my left leg and a crescent step with my right leg. As I come up, I wedge the pocket of the hips with a V-mount, and now if he frames, I work my way inside his frames to get chest to chest. One more time. Working the Toreando. I work distance. I come up, thumb posting, post on the knee. I take a side step and a crescent step. Side step, crescent step up to the hip line. Now from here, I wedge the pocket of the hips, and I beat his frames. We also have a leg drag. Now the leg drag can be a little tougher, because with the leg drag, I have to be able to get my knee underneath of and inside his knee, just like this. So how am I going to do that when his knees are so low? Okay, I come up. This knee's too low. I want to get behind this knee with my flank, but it's too low. I'm going to go hands on the knees, and I'm going to push this knee to the floor as I push this leg across. Okay, now his knee's high enough that I can start coming in over his foot into the flank position. Again, the problem is his knee's too low. I can't just come in and force the flank. So what I do, I come in, pressing his knees down, and now I can come into the flank because I got that knee a little bit higher. Understand, face the camera hands, in a seated position. All right, now if I want this knee to get higher, I can push this knee lower. When I push this knee low, watch the other knee. The other knee raises, okay? So that's the idea here. I need to get my knee wedged in underneath and behind that knee. So to get that knee higher, I push this knee to the floor, and the other knee rises. One more time. Face it. So I'm in here, I'm just here, pushing the knees to the floor, and I come into the flank. So that's passing from the outside. Next, we need to talk about breaking connections. Let's talk about breaking the shin-to-shin 2-on-1, the Ashigarami, and the X-guard. I believe we've covered Ashigarami and X-guard before, but we'll just briefly touch on them. First, let's look at a shin-to-shin 2-on-1. Let's say I try to step to the inside position, but Ant did a good job. And he established a shin-to-shin 2-on-1. If I sit here for too long and I don't know what to do, he's going to use this to go into Ashigarami. He's going to off-balance me and Ashigarami. So, from this situation, I want to be able to re-pummel my foot back to the inside. Now, if he was super lazy with this foot, I could just re-pummel, but nobody's going to let you do that. They're going to lock in tight. Okay, so here's how I deal with this. I use a hand-posted leg assist. Now, what in the world is that? Let's put our butts toward the camera. Lock your shin to shin. I want to be able to take my right leg, lock it up, get tight. I want to take my leg and pump up to the inside, but I can't. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lean forward, putting all my weight onto my hands. Lock. I come up. Now I'm going to use my free foot to post on his foot, and I'm going to push his foot outside my foot. And now I come down, and you see I have the inside position again. From the inside position, you guys know what to do. Over-unders, knee cuts, lower leg knee cuts, long steps, smash passes. All the same stuff. And we had to use a hand-posted leg assist to steal inside position again in order to make them happen. So one more time, this time we'll face this way. I try to step to the inside, but he does a good job of establishing shin to shin. Perfect. So from here, I want to get my foot free, but I can't. So I'm going to use a hand-posted leg assist. I post on my hands, and I use my free foot, my free leg, come here, and push my foot to the inside position. And now I can start working my passes, such as a knee cut. Let's look at Ashigarami. So let's say he gets shin to shin 2-on-1. And now I was not able to do my hand-posted leg assist in time. He's going to off-balance me, Ashigarami, and now we're stuck here. You guys have seen this before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. First things first, we point the feet away from us. Foot's pointed away. My leg's already into the pocket of the hip, so I need to step both my legs to one side of the body. I can do that either stepping over the feet and going around the legs, or, you guessed it, going around the head. And we end up in the same position. Now let's say he uses shin to shin 2-on-1. He goes into Ashigarami, and now he turns into an X-guard. He can't knock me down, so he goes X-guard. But we got to learn to deal with this too. My favorite way to deal with X-guard is to take this foot behind. Understand that from the X-guard, by the way, this leg stops me from going forward. If he took this leg out, I could easily go forward. This leg stops me from going backward. If he took this leg out, I can easily go backward. But when he's got both in and he's using them together, I can't go either direction. I personally find it easier to post here, take this hook out. This foot I kind of struggle to get a good grip on, so I go here. From here I'm going to post his foot to his butt, I'm going to push his foot down, and I backstep off the hook. Now his knees are in my way, so I'm going to get inside the pockets of the hip, here, here, and now that I'm inside the pockets of the hip, he's going to use his legs and knees and feet, and he can't. And I take top position. So let's do just one more visual for each one. We'll show breaking shin to shin 2-on-1, Ashigarami, and X-guard again. Shin to shin 2-on-1, hand posted leg assist. Ashigarami, peel the foot, forward step, or peel the foot and back step. X-guard. I like to take this foot off the knee. I can either do this standing like this, or if I need more stability, I can face on the floor. Either one is fine. And that's breaking our opponent's connections. All right, so we saw how to approach. We saw how to establish inside position and pass off inside position. We saw how to pass from outside position. And we've seen breaking connections, Shinshin 2-on-1, Ashigarami X guard. The last section is we're going to look at attacking submissions, okay? From seated guard. From supine guard, actually. Supine? The head and the arms and the shoulders, all that is so far away from me. I don't have access to the upper body. If I wanted to submit Ant in this scenario, the only thing that's really available to me is lower body submissions. I would never do a leg like that, by the way. I was just showing. I would never sit here and try to break a leg from this position. I'd sit down and all that, right? If he's seated, now his head and his arms are close to me. I'm not going to go over these in great detail because we're going to study submissions for an entire year, and you guys are going to see all of these at some point, but I just want you thinking about these. The head is available. I could go into front headlocks. I could start hitting guillotines here. I could go after arms with kimuras, going here, controlling. I could come up into kimuras like so. If I'm here and he starts reaching for me, like collar ties for instance, I can control his arm, step over, and I can go into triangle chokes or arm bars. I've seen that where if he's reaching for me, collar tie, people step, boom, throw a leg over, and there's submissions. And then of course we can always go into lower body submissions as well. If he's up, I can always do things like step to the inside, back step, and now I can go into heel hooks and lower body submissions. So when my opponent's on his back, the submissions that are available to me are only the lower body. When he's on his butt, I can attack both the lower body or the upper body. I can distribute submissions around the entire body, okay? So those are kind of the main 5 sections. From standing, how do we approach and engage? How do we get inside and pass from inside? How do we pass from outside? How do we break the common connections? And then the bonus section, there's some submissions there to look for too. Now we're going to go through that same sequence. We're going to do it from a kneeling position. Okay? Now, why would we do that? If Ant's in a seated position, do you guys remember what the 2 things Ant needs are, or Ant wants to go into Ashigarami? Feet in the inside position was one of them. And what was the second one, Ant?
Knee off the ground.
I need at least 1 knee off the floor. So if I'm on my feet, I'm giving him my knees off the floor. If he gets inside position, he has Ashigarami. So if you are going against a partner who is particularly skilled at Ashigarami, you may very well choose to approach from a kneeling position. Because now if Ant wants to go into Ashigarami, even if he has double inside position, he's not really going to be able to get Ashigarami unless he's able to get my knees off the floor. If he is able to, say for instance, elevate, like grab on me and elevate me up over, and now my knees off the floor, now I can go into Ashigarami. But as long as I keep my knees heavy on the mat, there is no Ashigarami. So that's the benefit. The trade-off is we don't have the same mobility. From this position, from the feet, I have great mobility, but I'm also susceptible to Ashigarami. From my knees, my mobility is highly compromised. Okay, I'm much less mobile now, but at least I don't have to worry about his leg entrances so much. So if he's an Ashigarami specialist or a leg lock specialist, X guard specialist, etc., I may very well choose to approach from the knees. So with that in mind, let's start looking at, okay, now that we get to understand the theory, how do we actually do this? How do we approach somebody from the knees and pass? Well, the first thing is, again, important. We're going to talk about how we engage our opponent. Okay? First things first, I like to be on my toes. Can you scoot back just a bit? If I'm on the tops of my feet, if I'm on my shoelaces, I'm not very mobile, okay? I'm already not mobile because I'm on my knees. If I sit on the tops of my feet, I'm really not mobile. I'm not going to go anywhere very fast at all. So one of the first things I do if I'm going to play from the knees is I tuck my toes. because now at least if I need to, I can at any minute take my knees off the floor and go back into standing passes. I can step up. I have a little bit more mobility. If I'm on my knees and I want to move, I first need to shift all my weight, get it off, and now I can move it just being slower. So first things first, let's tuck our toes so we have movement. Next thing, let's have good head position. So I'm going to come in here matching head to head. I don't want his head to get underneath my head like this, because now he can start elevating me, getting me out of balance, and bad things start to happen. So I don't want my head to go over his shoulder. So I'll show that on this side. If my head goes over his shoulder, he can now start elevating, out balancing, and going into attacks. So when I approach, I tuck my toes. I'm usually grip fighting because he's going to be trying to grip fight me. That's the other key to this puzzle. If I just come in and I let him take whatever grips he wants, then obviously it's not going to go good. So as I approach, I keep good head position. I'm grip fighting, and I like to take my head here next to his head inside the shoulder. Now if he tries to elevate me the same way he did before, it's just not the same. Even if he tries to scoot your hips in and really try to elevate, it's hard with my head under his shoulder. If he gets his shoulder underneath my head, and now he can start elevating me. Okay, so we use good head position in the shoulder. So I tuck my toes, I come in ready for a grip fight, and I take good head position. And now we're ready to engage. The second section from the kneeling opponent is going to be to establish inside position and pass off inside position. Same stuff. How do we do it? Well, we can either go with our knee first or our foot first. I prefer the foot, but the knee is also good. Let me show, how's it labeled in here? Is it foot or knee first? Foot first. Cool. So in this situation, I approach, tuck toes, grip fighting, good head position. I'm going to put all of my weight over one knee, step the other leg off the floor, and step to the inside position. Once again, either to the straight hip or the cross hip. Once I step in, the feet are already pointing away from me. I'm going to start wedging the pocket of the hip. I come in with good head position. My knee and my elbow are connecting on this side. I start to flatten them down. Now, if he tries to get this leg in the inside position, my knee-elbow connection makes that very hard. Same idea, still wedging the pocket of the hip, still connecting knee and elbow to keep his leg shut out on the outside. It's the same concepts, guys. Come in, boom. Now as he tries to push me off and hold me off, I come in, and there's my knee cut pass. Alternatively, tuck toes, good head position, grip fighting, I come up, I could dive in to an over-under pass. We have long steps, we have smash passes, etc. Okay. From here, I go inside, boom, control the head, long step. Come in, come in, start to smash down, and start to smash his two knees together, and come into a smash pass. But the idea is the same, guys. Establish an inside foot, and then go into your inside passes. Now I'm going to show you guys how I can do the same thing by getting a knee inside. Another way that I'll do this, and I like this one, requires a little less movement, it's more subtle, so I do like this one for the subtlety's sake. He has inside position. I'm on my toes, I grip fight, I get good head position. I put all my weight over one leg, but this time instead of taking a big step to get my foot up, instead of taking a big step to get my foot up, I can just take my knee up and over the ankle. And now I have inside position. Okay? So good position, coming in, my knee comes up and I blade my knee from the outside to the inside. And now I can come in to my over-under and blade to the inside, come in to my knee cut, blade to the inside, come in with my long step, smash pass, you guys get it. Again, the big idea is we want to first steal inside position from him, so that when we do start moving, and so that when our knees do start coming off the floor, he can't go into Ashigarami. We steal inside position. We can do that either with a foot or with a subtle pummel of the knee. Okay? Now we have to learn to pass from outside position. If we can't get inside position, I'm in here, once again, toes tucked. Grip fighting, so I'm not giving him whatever grips he wants. And good head position so he can't elevate me. Now from here, if I wanted to go Toreando, I could wedge the far hip. I could post my hand on this knee, I come up, and I work to the outside. Over here, grip fighting, and we go in for Toreando. Now as I come in for a Toreando, sometimes he's going to start defending, fighting, and I might have to turn it into a flank position, do a leg drag. Come in, fighting, go here, I pass, I get to here, but he's like, his knee's still facing me, I can't get this knee out. And I feel like this leg's starting to come back in, and things are going bad. So from here I can start to run across, and I can force the flank position. And now you guys know what to do from the flank position. We get inside the frames, come up, control the head and shoulders, etc. So, just like all of our other passes, guys, either we get inside position and then we use our inside passes, over, under, knee cut, long step, smash, etc. Or if we can't get inside position, then we focus on our outside passes, Toreando and leg drag. And we can always go back and forth between the two. If we start outside, but during the mess of the exchange, sometimes, at some point our foot ends up on the inside, that's fine. And transition to your inside passes. If you start with your foot on the inside and you're trying your inside passes, and in the hustle bustle of the guard pass, both your feet come to the outside, switch to the outside passes. Now, let's talk about breaking connections. It's going to be a little different from seated guard because we're not actually going to be getting into specific guard. It's going to be more about grip fighting, okay? When I'm in here, the connections are going to come by way of grip. You might take, for instance, an arm drag grip. Yep. And now if I just let him have this grip, he's going to pull my arm across his body, and he's going to take my back. Okay? It could be an elbow 2-on-1. So here and here. So now when I try to pull my arm away, the strength of one grip is covered by the weakness of the other, and I can't get my arm free. If I just sit here and yank, it doesn't work. If I keep yanking and it doesn't work, eventually he's going to pull his hips in, he's going to pull me forward, he's going to elevate me, and now he's going to be getting into hook sweeps and Ashigarami, and all sorts of things are going to happen. So we got to learn how to grip fight if we're losing this. If he takes a grip on me,